And welcome to Rob Schmitt tonight. Today, Ilhan Omar was finally removed from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. It was quite a spectacle on the House floor. Democrats are enraged, of course, claiming Republicans, angry over Omar's anti-Semitic comments, are hypocrites for suppressing free speech, which actually is a fair argument. I agree with them. Omar, a Somalian refugee who represents a heavily Somalian-American district in Minneapolis, is an unapologetic anti-Semite. There's really no escaping it anymore. On Sunday, she tried to defend some of her past comments by claiming that she didn't realize associating Jewish people and money was considered offensive. So she's really not even trying to hide this anymore. Regardless, though, she shouldn't just be punished for her speech. That's not right. But anti-Semitic comments are not the real reason that Omar was kicked off of her highly prized committee. The real reason is that there's simply no responsible way to allow a woman with so much disdain for her own country and the Western way of life to sit on a committee that works on legislation critical to protecting the United States and our Western way of life. In 2021, Omar, a blatant apologist for terror groups such as Hamas and al-Qaeda, tweeted, "We have seen unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., Hamas, Israel, Afghanistan, and the Taliban. I asked Anthony Blinken where people are supposed to go for justice." And with that tweet, Ilhan Omar morphed from being a radical Islamic apologist to a sitting member of Congress actually drawing a moral equivalency between the United States and terror organizations. A sitting member of Congress incapable of distinguishing the country that rescued her as a refugee from terrorists who run around beheading people. Of course, you didn't hear any of this nuance in the fiery speeches from squad members today. It was just the usual screaming of everything's racist.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America.
The white supremacy happening is unbelievable. This is despicable. It is Congresswoman Omar who has been harassed at her job for simply existing as a Muslim woman in Congress.
No matter how embattled, no matter how racially profiled, no matter how targeted, she has pressed on.
The Congresswoman Omar, I am so sorry,
has expired.
That our country is failing you today through this chamber. You belong
The gentlewoman is no longer.
Now, you hope that Republicans were laughing while they listened to all of that, because it was hilarious, and they should have been. Ilhan Omar made it quite clear today that the punishment that she was about to receive when she made this speech is going to do nothing to change her warped ideology.
I didn't come to Congress to be silent. I came to Congress to be their voice. And my leadership and voice will not be diminished if I am not on this committee for one term. My voice will get louder and stronger, and my leadership will be celebrated around the world as it has been.
She's not wrong. Omar's voice and her leadership are already celebrated around the world in some of the world's darkest corners. Having someone like Ilhan Omar in a position of power in the United States, watching the executive branch of the United States capitulate to her like they did today from the White House podium, well, that emboldens some of the worst actors in the world and builds the narrative that acts of terror are perhaps justified. Remember, it was Ilhan Omar who famously said that some people did something when talking about 9/11, marginalizing probably the most horrific thing that any American had ever seen at the time. Because, let's face it, in her mind, we deserved it. Ilhan Omar's goal is to dismantle our entire way of life, and that's not punditry. She says it all the time.
As long as our economy and political systems prioritize profit without considering who is profiting, who is being shut out, we will perpetuate this inequality. So we cannot stop at criminal justice system. We must begin the work of dismantling the whole system of oppression wherever we find it.
The whole system of oppression, also known as the United States of America, the country that saved her as a refugee from her country. One of the biggest threats that this country faces is first world guilt. We've allowed people like Ilhan Omar shame us for developing a thriving, successful society. They allege there's some kind of a zero-sum game happening, and the reason that Somalia was so horrendous that she had to flee was because the United States and the West and Israel are so incredible. Somehow our greatness came at a cost for the rest of the world. They really believe this, as if we're preventing other nations from figuring out how to run a sophisticated society after hundreds of years. It's our fault so much of the world can't figure out how to evolve. That's what they believe. And now this mentality shouldn't be banned here. We're not saying that. It is a free country. You can think what you want. But it shouldn't be pandered to. It shouldn't be capitulated to. People who think this way can, of course, be elected to office if you can find a district dumb enough to elect you. But committee assignments, once you get there, those are a privilege. And awful hypocrites who come here as refugees and then work to dismantle our way of life should not be involved in how we deal with foreign policy. Unfortunately, only one party in Congress believes this anymore. They used to both believe that. House Democrats, though, are too charmed by the now fashionable Hate America brand, which is well represented amongst the squad members. And all but one today voted to keep Ilhan Omar on House Foreign Affairs, screaming fake narratives to justify such a ridiculous position. Unsurprisingly, AOC was the phoniest of all. She didn't fake cry again in her favorite white outfit, but she did have a hissy fit over all of this, and she took another jab at Republican Paul Gosar at the same time. Gosar in 2021 retweeted a cartoon depicting himself as some kind of a flying hero bird thing, attacking AOC and Joe Biden. And just that retweet from Paul Gosar got him kicked off of his own committee assignments. Here's how AOC put it today.
I had a member of the Republican caucus threaten my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress.
Utterly shocked and dismayed by a retweeted cartoon was AOC. It was a threat to her life. Now, you have to remember, AOC's life is threatened all the time. She was almost killed on January 6th, even though she wasn't at the Capitol. But the message from AOC today was clear. Retweeting a cartoon warrants removal from House committees. But having nothing but disdain for the country you represent in Congress, the country that saved you, well, of course, that's perfectly acceptable. They actually expect you to buy this nonsense, and just to prove that it is all just a game of lies and gaslighting, here's AOC just a couple weeks ago, almost looking like she's in love at some points during this conversation. Look at that smile, talking with the dangerous MAGA Republican who threatened her life back in 2021.